fireplace, they sat together on the couch, sharing stories and laughing. The connection between them had only grown stronger since they started dating. The spark was undeniable, and the way they looked at each other now was filled with tenderness. David gently took her hand, his thumb lightly brushing over her skin. "Blossom," he said softly, his voice low and steady, "I want you to know that I'm not rushing you into anything. I just want you to know that when you're ready, I'm here." Blossom looked up at him, her heart racing. She could feel the love in his words, in the way he held her hand so gently, as if he was waiting for her to make the decision. It was exactly what she needed. No pressure, no expectations, just the space to decide what was right for her. David leaned in closer, and for the first time, Blossom felt ready. She could see the trust in his eyes, the love that had been growing between them, and she knew, deep down, that she was ready to take the next step with him. She kissed him softly, pulling back to look into his eyes. "I'm ready, David. I want to be with you, completely." David's heart swelled with happiness and love. He leaned in again, this time with more passion, his lips finding hers in a kiss that spoke of all the emotions they had both been feeling. It was slow and tender, and Blossom felt herself melting into it, feeling a sense of peace that she had never experienced before. Later that night, in the quiet of the cabin, surrounded by the peaceful sounds of nature, Blossom gave David something she had held back for so long, her virginity. They went on all night until they got tired. She trusted him completely, knowing he would cherish her in the way she had always dreamed of. As they lay together afterward, David held her close, his heart full of gratitude. He had never expected to find someone like Blossom, someone so real, so kind, and so genuine. In her arms, he had found the peace and love he had been searching for all along. Blossom, too, felt a sense of calm and happiness she had never known before. She knew she had made the right choice, and with David, she felt safe, loved, and more herself than ever. As they drifted off to sleep, side by side, both of them knew that this was just the beginning of something beautiful, something that would last. And in that moment, they were both content, knowing they had found something real. After their weekend getaway, David couldn't have been happier. His relationship with Blossom was growing stronger every day. He had completely forgotten about the bet, the one that had once driven him to pursue her. All that mattered now was her. She made him feel things he hadn't felt in a long time, joy, peace, and the simple pleasure of spending time with someone who truly cared about him. His world had shifted, and the bet, the challenge, seemed irrelevant now. Every day, David continued to surprise Blossom with small, thoughtful gifts, flowers, books, handwritten notes, and little things that showed her how much he appreciated her. He took his time, never rushing her, always patient. Blossom couldn't help but fall deeper for him. He made her feel loved, valued, and cherished in a way she had never known before. With each passing day, her feelings for him grew stronger. But one evening, as David was working late in his office, his phone rang. It was Mark. "David. Hey, how's it going?" Mark's voice was loud and carefree as usual. David sighed, wiping his hand over his tired face. "Hey, Mark. It's good, just busy with work. What's up?" Mark chuckled on the other end. "I've been thinking about that bet we made, you remember, right? The virgin thing." David froze. Hearing Mark's voice immediately brought all of it rushing back, everything he had tried to forget. For a moment, David felt the weight of the past creeping in, but he quickly shook it off. This was different now. His feelings for Blossom were real, and the bet felt like nothing more than a distant memory. "Yeah," David said, his voice trailing off. Mark's tone shifted slightly, a smirk evident in his voice. "Well, I was thinking, you're not really interested in it anymore, right? I mean, you've got the girl, so you've won. But since you've decided you're not going to follow through with the terms, I guess I'll just expect the money you owe me." David's stomach tightened. He had long since stopped caring about the bet, but hearing Mark's words brought back the ugly truth of how it had all started. He wasn't the same man he had been when the bet was made. He wasn't interested in the money or the challenge anymore. "I'm not interested in the bet anymore, Mark," David said firmly. "I've moved on. I'm with Blossom, and that's where I want to be. I don't owe you anything." There was a long pause on the other end of the line, and then Mark's voice became colder. "You do owe me, David. The terms were clear. If you back out, you lose. You owe me the money." David felt his frustration rising. "I'm not paying you anything, Mark. The bet doesn't matter anymore. You can't just go around demanding money because I don't want to play your stupid game." Mark's voice shifted again, now full of menace. "Oh, I think you'll reconsider. You see, I'm still planning to tell Blossom about the deal we made. She doesn't know, does she? I'm sure she'd love to hear how you were playing with her like she was some kind of prize. What do you think she'll do when she finds out? How do you think she'll feel about you? David's heart sank, and a rush of panic swept over him. The idea of Blossom finding out the truth about the bet made him sick. He had worked so hard to build something real with her, and if she learned the truth, it could destroy everything. David clenched his fists, his voice low but firm. Mark, I'm telling you right now, don't you dare go near her with this. I'll make sure you regret it. Mark laughed coldly. You're in no position to threaten me, David. You know the terms of the bet. You either pay me, or I tell her everything. It's that simple. David took a deep breath, trying to control his anger. He refused to let Mark control this situation. You won't do it. You're my friend, Mark. Don't destroy that over money. I've made my choice, and it's Blossom. Don't try to ruin that. Mark was quiet for a moment, clearly weighing his options. Fine, he said at last, his voice dripping with sarcasm. You're making a huge mistake, David. But whatever, it's your life. Just don't say I didn't warn you. David hung up the phone, his heart still pounding in his chest. He felt a mix of anger and fear, anger at Mark trying to manipulate him, and fear for what Mark might do. But in that moment, something inside him solidified. He was done with the past. He was done with the bet. He wasn't going to let anyone, especially Mark, ruin what he had with Blossom. David stood up from his desk and walked to the window, looking out over the city. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden glow over the skyline, but it didn't matter. What mattered was what he was going to do next. He was going to tell Blossom the truth, when the time was right. But for now, he couldn't let Mark's threats cloud his relationship with her. He had to protect her from the truth, even if it meant keeping the past buried a little longer. Later that evening, David went to see Blossom. He needed to be with her, to remind himself why he had made this decision in the first place. He couldn't let Mark's threats shake him. He would do whatever it took to protect their relationship. When Blossom opened the door, David pulled her into a warm embrace. I missed you, he said softly. Blossom smiled, wrapping her arms around him. I missed you too. As they stood there, holding each other, David realized just how much he had changed since meeting Blossom. She had shown him a love that was real, and he wasn't going to let anything come between them, not even the past. Blossom, he said quietly, pulling back to look at her. I need you to know something. I want to be with you, and I'll do whatever it takes to make sure you know how much I care about you. Blossom looked at him, her eyes filled with trust and affection. I know, David. I can see how much you care. David kissed her gently, holding her close, as if to remind himself that she was real, and that nothing in the past could change what they had now. He had made a promise to himself, and to her, that he wouldn't let anyone or anything destroy their love. Not Mark, not the bet, nothing. And as they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, David knew that this was just the beginning of something new. Something that was completely his and Blossom's, free from the past. Blossom had been looking forward to this weekend for weeks. The calm, quiet time with David was exactly what she needed, a chance to relax and just enjoy being with him. The weekend was supposed to be about them, getting closer, sharing more moments together, and growing their relationship. She had been so happy with how everything had been going. David had been nothing but kind, patient, and attentive. He showed up every day with flowers, sweet messages, and thoughtful little gifts. Every moment with him felt like a dream come true. She had never known someone to care for her the way he did, and she felt herself falling deeper for him with each passing day. But today, things would change in a way she never expected. David had just gone into the bathroom to take a quick shower, and Blossom, feeling a bit bored, picked up his phone. She wasn't trying to snoop, but it was lying there on the table, and she needed to make a quick call. Without thinking, she unlocked it and began to scroll through his messages. As she looked through the screen, she found a message that made her heart stop, an email from the agency. The subject line read, "We found another virgin for you. Let us know when you're ready to proceed." Blossom's hand shook as she read it again, her mind racing. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. The agency. Another virgin. Her thoughts were spinning. Why was this still happening? Why had David not told her about it? Her stomach twisted as she scrolled down, only to find another message. This time, it was from Mark. The message was blunt and threatening. Don't think you can hide from the truth forever. I'll tell her everything about the bet. She'll find out. You can't keep this from her. Blossom's breath hitched. The words burned in her chest, and her whole world seemed to shatter in that moment. The man she had trusted, the man she had been falling for, had been lying to her this whole time. It wasn't about her, it was about the bet, the game. She was just part of some challenge to him. She couldn't believe it. Tears sprang to her eyes, and before she knew it, they were streaming down her face. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The betrayal hurt too much. The trust she had built with David felt like it had been ripped away in an instant. When David returned from the bathroom, he froze as soon as he saw her sitting on the couch, the phone still in her hands. Her face was pale, her eyes filled with tears. She didn't have to say anything. He knew she had found out the truth. "Blossom," David started, his voice full of concern as he walked toward her. "I can explain." "Explain?" Blossom interrupted, voice shaking with emotion. "You've been lying to me, David. The whole time. I thought about me. But you were just playing a game, weren't you? I was just a part of your bet. You didn't care about me. You just wanted to win." David's heart sank, and he felt his throat tighten as he struggled to find the right words. "Blossom, I never meant to hurt you. I care about you more than anything. You mean so much to me, but when this started, I was a different person. I didn't know I'd fall for you, I swear. This wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't want you to find out like this." Blossom stood up, her chest tightening as the tears continued to flow. "You didn't want me to find out?" she asked bitterly. "You didn't want me to know that I was just part of some bet? That you only came to me because of a dare? That's the truth, isn't it, David?" David reached for her, his hand outstretched, but she stepped back, out of his reach. "No," she said, her voice firm despite the tears. "I don't want to hear any more of your lies, David. I can't anymore." David's heart broke at her words. "Blossom, please, let me explain. I've changed, I swear. I never wanted it to be like this. I just wanted you to know the real me." Blossom shook her head, her voice trembling with hurt. "The real you? The someone who plays games with women, who doesn't care about the feelings of the people he's hurting. How am I supposed to believe anything you say now?" She looked at him, and for the first time, David saw the pain he had caused her reflected in her eyes. It hit him like a punch to the gut. She had trusted him, and he had betrayed that trust in the worst way possible. "I need to go," she whispered, turning toward the door. "No, Blossom, please," David pleaded, his voice desperate as he stepped toward her. But she didn't stop. She didn't look back. She walked out of his apartment, her footsteps echoing in his ears as the door clicked shut behind her. David stood there in silence, his heart heavy with guilt. He couldn't believe he had lost her. He had been so focused on his own desires, on proving something to himself, that he hadn't seen how much he had hurt her. Now, all he could do was stand there and regret everything. Blossom walked down the hallway, her heart in pieces. She couldn't look back. She couldn't face him right now. Her mind was a whirlwind of confusion and heartbreak. The man she had trusted, the man she had let into her life, had just shattered everything with a lie. She couldn't do it. She couldn't stay in his apartment, in his world, knowing what she now knew. As she stepped into the elevator, her tears continued to flow, but her steps were resolute. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew she couldn't stay there any longer. She needed time. Time to think. To heal. And time to figure out how to move on from the man who had broken her heart. Blossom had walked out of David's apartment that day with a heart heavy with betrayal and hurt. The truth had come crashing down on her like a tidal wave, leaving her no choice but to run. She couldn't stand to look at him, knowing that everything they had, everything she had believed in, was built on a lie. She needed time, space, and distance. Time to heal. Time to think. David had tried to call, text, and even send her messages, but Blossom ignored them all. His voice, the sound of his apologies, only added to the weight she was carrying. She didn't know how to process everything. The pain of feeling deceived was too much to bear. She had trusted him with her heart, and now it felt like that trust had been shattered beyond repair. For weeks, she kept her distance. Her life continued, but it was like a fog had settled over her. She focused on her work at the bookstore, keeping busy so that her mind wouldn't wander back to David. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't escape the thought of him. She couldn't escape the memory of the love they had shared. And, deep down, she still missed him. One evening, as she sat in her small apartment, her phone rang. It wasn't David, but it was the last person she ever expected to hear from, her mother. "Blossom, it's your father, he's been admitted to the hospital. They say he needs surgery, and it's going to cost 5 million naira. Blossom's heart dropped into her stomach. Her father had been ill for a while, but she hadn't realized how serious it had gotten. She rushed to the hospital, her mind racing with fear and worry. The doctors explained the situation. Her father needed an urgent surgery, and without it, he wouldn't survive. The cost, however, was more than she could possibly afford. She had been saving, but not nearly enough. She had no idea how she was going to manage. Sitting in the hospital waiting area, Blossom felt a deep sense of helplessness. The weight of her father's condition, the mounting hospital bills, and the emotional turmoil of her relationship with David all crashed down on her. She didn't know who to turn to. She couldn't even ask her mother. She had nothing left. At that moment, her phone buzzed. It was a message from David. "I know you don't want to hear from me right now, but I can't sit by and do nothing. I heard about your father. Please, let me help. I'll cover the bills, all of it. Just let me know what I can do." Blossom stared at the screen, her heart beating in her ears. She couldn't believe what she was reading. After everything that had happened, after how she had shut him out, he was still offering to help. She felt a lump form in her throat. David had been persistent in his attempts to reach her. He had respected her space, never forcing her to talk, but he had never stopped trying. She didn't want to accept his help. Her pride and her pain told her to turn away, to refuse him. But the reality of the situation hit her hard. Her father's life was at stake, and she didn't have the money to save him. David didn't wait for her to answer. He showed up at the hospital the next day, his presence like a quiet force. Blossom was sitting in the waiting area, her face tired, her eyes red from days of worrying. When she saw him, she couldn't hide the surprise, or the anger, in her eyes. "I told you, David," she said softly, "I don't want your help. I don't want anything from you." "I'll pay for the surgery," David continued. "All of it. And I'll stay here with you, every day, until your father is better. You're not alone, Blossom." Over the next month, David kept his word. He paid for the surgery, and every day, he visited Blossom at the hospital. He brought her meals, stayed by her side, and gave her the space to process everything. He never pushed her, but he was always there, quietly, patiently, showing her that he was truly committed to her and her family. As her father began to recover, Blossom found herself softening. She saw David's actions, not just his words, and she realized that the man she had fallen for was still there. He had made mistakes, but he had shown her over and over again that he was willing to do whatever it took to make things right. One evening, as Blossom sat by her father's bedside, David came in, carrying a small bouquet of flowers. He placed them on the table and sat beside her, his eyes gentle. "Blossom," he said softly, his voice full of warmth and sincerity. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I know I hurt you, but I hope one day you'll see that I'm here for you. I want to be with you. I'll wait for you as long as it takes." Blossom looked at him, the weight of everything they had been through sitting between them. But in his eyes, she saw the man she had once trusted. The man who had changed, who had shown her his true self. Slowly, she reached out and took his hand. "I'm not sure I'm ready," she whispered, "but maybe we can start over. One step at a time." David smiled, his heart lifting. "One step at a time," he echoed. As the weeks passed, David continued to visit, patiently waiting for Blossom to heal, emotionally, physically, and mentally. He knew that they had a long road ahead, but they were walking it together. And for the first time in a long time, Blossom allowed herself to believe in the possibility of forgiveness, of second chances. By the time her father was fully recovered, Blossom had forgiven David. It wasn't easy, but she had seen his actions, his love, his commitment, and it had touched her deeply. She couldn't forget the pain, but she was willing to forgive. The next day, David was at work when his phone buzzed. He looked down, hoping it wasn't just another message from his lawyer or a work-related call. When he saw Blossom's name on the screen, his heart skipped a beat. He quickly answered. "Babe?" he said, his voice trembling with hope. "I've been thinking," she said softly, her voice still carrying a bit of uncertainty. "About everything. About you, about us." David's heart raced. "Blossom, I need you to..." she interrupted, her tone steady but gentle. "I'm not saying I've completely forgiven you yet. But I'm willing to try. I want to trust you again. I want to give this another chance." David's throat tightened as he let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "You don't know how much this means to me, Blossom. I'm not asking for you to forget, or for it all to be perfect. I just want a chance to prove that I can be the man you deserve." "I know you're not perfect, David," she replied softly. I'm not either. But I think we can learn to be better together. David felt a tear slip from his eye, but it was a tear of relief. The weight on his shoulders lifted as he realized that Blossom was giving him a chance, giving them both a chance. I don't know what to say, except thank you, he whispered. You won't regret this, I swear. I hope not, Blossom said with a small laugh. I'll see you tonight? David's heart soared. Yes. I'll be there. Later that evening, David showed up at Blossom's apartment, his heart full of anticipation and nerves. When she opened the door, a soft smile spread across her face, and David couldn't help but smile back. It felt like they were stepping into something new, something that wasn't defined by the mistakes of the past. I brought you something, David said, holding out a small bouquet of her favorite flowers, a simple gesture to show her that he was thinking of her. Blossom took the flowers and inhaled their fragrance, her smile widening. You didn't have to do this, David. I wanted to, he said. You mean more to me than anything. They stood there for a moment, just looking at each other. David gently reached for her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. Blossom, I know I've hurt you. I know I've broken your trust. But I swear to you, I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. You've given me something that's more precious than anything else, your trust. And I won't take that for granted. Blossom's eyes softened as she looked up at him. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, the honesty that had been absent before. She stepped closer to him, placing her hand on his chest. I'm ready to move forward, she said quietly. But I need you to understand something, David. I need time to heal, and I need you to be patient with me. But I'm willing to try. I want to give us a real chance. David nodded, his voice full of gratitude. I'll be patient, Blossom. I'll wait as long as it takes. Without another word, he leaned in, kissing her gently, tenderly, as if to reaffirm his promise. The kiss wasn't about rushing things, it was about healing, about forgiveness, and about the trust that they were starting to build again. As they pulled back, Blossom rested her head against his chest, feeling the warmth of his embrace. For the first time in weeks, she felt safe again. They still had a long way to go, but they were moving forward together, and that was all that mattered. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please like, subscribe and share. Thanks for watching.